The future is not just happening. The future is built by us. The future is built by us.
Tonight is a long-awaited podcast on the World Economic Forum. You know, that collection of the super elite, political figures, and industry leaders that meet in Davos, Switzerland once a year to discuss. That's one. I mean, to plan how society and the global community or the sheeple should be dealt with, or how we should worship their very presence. These people want to decide the fate of the world at Davos without an invitation or the inclusion of those they wish to subjugate. By the way, did you receive your invitation to Davos this year? I didn't. Well, like the Bilderberg Group, I will discuss how these same people who don't have a real interest in our future, but self-interest in their accumulation of power and wealth, along with their ability to influence how governments govern their people. They profess they want to set up a global community with rules and manipulate countries and people for their benefit, not for humanitarian reasons. But the oldest desire is an insatiable appetite for greed and power, creating a world of servitude for the elite, creating a freedomless society of mindless citizens, and creating a world of lambs led to the slaughter. And I know what you're saying. The World Economic Forum is doing all this, right? Well, no, not by itself, but it is one of many strategically operational organizations of the elite in different social, political, military, and industrial walks of life, currently accelerating their Agenda 21. So-called leaders bent on telling us how to eat, how to live, how to think, and whether certain forms of speech could be censored. Their goal is not the enrichment or the advancement of a better global community. It is part of a big idea.
It is a big idea.
A new world order.
A new world order.
Sound familiar?
Well, I don't understand this world today. Why is success a bad thing? Why, if you're a millionaire, you're evil. If you're a billionaire, you're the Antichrist. Because of their pathetic jealousy.
The World Economic Forum is nothing short of a billionaires club, with lavish desires to rule because, according to Klaus Schwab, they built this community by themselves, for themselves. These rich entrepreneurs, industrial leaders, heads of state, military contractors, and civil society leaders are nothing more than self-appointed world influencers led by Carl Schwab, George Soros, and many influential characters, which they claim is an attempt to bring stability to the global community with a set of bylaws to which strict adherence by the rest of the poor and the middle class become subservient to. In other words, rules for thee, not for me. Public and private industrial leaders who think they can change the world and bring peace and security. But as I mentioned before in a previous podcast, and what has been a word of warning in the biblical prophecy, 1 Thessalonians 5:3-3, when people are saying everything is so peaceful and secure, then destruction will suddenly come upon them, the way labor pains come upon a pregnant woman, and there is no way they will escape. What I find interesting about the World Economic Forum is they are so concerned with climate change, environmental issues, social equity, and the global community. This organization, and many like it, would like nothing more than to shift democratically elected leadership and the governments into the hands of an elected global cadre of corporate executives and billionaires. In Klaus Schwab's own words, you'll own nothing and be happy about it. Cooperation in a fragmented world is a term used at the World Economic Forum, which quite frankly describes the time we currently are witnessing and the state of the world on a global scale. And why not? They helped create this atmosphere of fear-mongering. The fragmented world wasn't created by the decisions of the population, but by bankers, industrial leaders, corporate moguls, and political leaders, dictators that have waged war, plotted assassinations, and helped overthrow elected office holders on various continents. Like the Trojan horse, a huge hollow wooden horse constructed by the Greeks to gain entrance into Troy during the Trojan War. The WEF, the World Health Organization, and many more organizations that you and I did not elect are creating rules to govern us and are poised to impose these rules and principles to remove your freedoms, your power to make your own decisions for your family and as individuals. And if we are not careful and watchful, the same fate that had befallen the city of Troy will be the fate of the entire globe. This is probably the most sought-after answer in history. I don't know. At least he or they have not revealed themselves. What I do know and have come to understand is the puppet master will be presented as a political leader and a savior to the world. And those, like the WEF and other organizations, will reap the benefits of this new world order or enslavement by acceptance of more than 2/3 of the world's population. The worst part of this is the entire world will be coerced into this new reality through financial, governmental, social, and religious means. Look around you. It has already been in the works. And no, it didn't recently begin. It's picking up speed. If you aren't realizing the world is becoming a 21st century version of 1984, then you have been already fear-mongered into this agenda of compliance. And the puppet master will be your new god, and he will lead you into misery with the claim of peace and security. Whether or not this will be predicted, the rise of the Antichrist, we must wait and see when he will reveal himself once the world is unified under one banner, one religion, one financial system, and his world-conquering control. Let's review the agenda of the World Economic Forum, referred to as the Great Reset. What is this Great Reset anyway? Before I explain that, remember this: never let a good crisis go to waste. Winston Churchill's words have never been more important than today as we experience the society and life-changing consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic. And the Great Reset Initiative is an economic recovery plan drawn up by the World Economic Forum, WEF, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The project was launched in June 2020 with a video featuring the then Prince of Wales Charles released to mark its launch. WEF Chief Executive Officer Klaus Schwab described 3 core components of the Great Reset: creating conditions for a stakeholder economy, building in a more resilient, equitable, and sustainable way, utilizing environmental, social, and governance (ESG) metrics, and harnessing the innovations of the 4th Industrial Revolution. In her speech, opening the dialogues, International Monetary Fund Director Kristalina Georgieva listed 3 aspects of a sustainable response to COVID-19: green growth, smarter growth, and fairer growth. What this initiative is telling you is that it will require that global citizens will have to submit to a grotesque digital ID that collects information about each citizen, and it will integrate the monetary, social media footprint, and ideologies of each person, which is available for scrutiny by these overlords. Another plan that most people are not aware of is the 15-minute cities, which are developed with post-pandemic learned experiences and climate change prevention. What are 15-minute cities, you ask? The WEF plans to limit how you live and travel. On their website, developed by French urbanist Carlos Moreno, 15-minute cities refers to a place where all the necessities of daily life, shops, schools, workplaces, doctor's offices, parks, libraries, restaurants, and other amenities are located in a short 15-minute walk or bike ride from home. Sounds like encampments or quarantine zones in which people are herded like cattle, creating neighborhood marginalization as well as its population. In addition, it attempts to draw citizens from the suburbs into a tighter controlled community for obvious control of the population of that district. Check it out for yourself. During the Nazi regime, they created similar cities. These were Jewish ghettos. This next evolution of limiting your freedom to travel without papers, however, more important is the concept of surveilling a population. Since post-pandemic, the population has dispersed to rural areas because of the previous lockdowns. However, this setback has only motivated the WEF, along with the WHO, to be creative in their attempt to usurp the sovereignty of many nations. On February 6, 2023, the World Health Organization released a report by the Director General on the WHO's review of amendments of the International Health Regulations. These amendments will be ready for adoption at the World Health Assembly in May 2024. A simple majority is required for the amendments to be adopted, after which they'll come into force in 12 months. The next step or attempt to seize global control is through an international pandemic treaty with the WHO. The treaty would grant the WHO the sole power to make decisions relating to global biosecurity, including but not limited to the implementation of a global vaccine passport, digital identity, mandatory vaccinations, travel restrictions, and standardized medical care. The treaty will supersede the laws of member states, including the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights. Think about it. Since the beginning of the global pandemic, the World Economic Forum has taken on a new life, appearing as a non-governmental organization, one of many NGOs that will solve all the world's problems. Funny, they create the problems in an attempt to resolve them, right? Now, does the fourth industrialization sound familiar? Well, Klaus Schwab and his organization have developed 4 pillars. There are 4 pillars the WEF subscribes to that should be of great concern to all of us, humanity, because it outlines a complete foundation of control and extinction of your natural God-given rights, freedoms. Pillar 1, surveillance. Yes, surveillance. They propose this by requiring every single person a new form of identification, a digital ID, which they state will promote inclusion and access to all services not available to many. What this means is every aspect of your life would be linked to your digital ID, from the way you travel to your financial records, medical, and social media presence. And while some will say, this is a great idea, the problem becomes scarier when you understand that your digital ID can be turned off if your compliance with their way of thinking and belief goes against their ideologies. With a flip of a switch, your digital ID can no longer access basic necessities. Your privacy becomes the scrutiny of the surveillance state. They will know where you travel, what you purchase, how you eat, and what your political and social views are. In other words, your ability to buy and sell can be constrained. Doesn't the book of Revelation mention this? Pillar 2, finance. This is where the government or the overlords will be monitoring and controlling your finances. Imagine your habits for spending are no longer determined by your needs, but rather by what the government constitutes is necessary for you. What you want is no longer up to you, but is decided for you. Well, this is the idea behind the second pillar. The term, you will own nothing and be happy, brings to mind the socialistic ideology of shared wealth at the expense of others. Most importantly, you won't own anything or have assets that you can call your own. The government will be the sole proprietor and owner of your assets. Their premise for this is it will reduce fraud, errors, and theft. Now, I'm not making this up. Go to their website and research the information if you're having trouble believing this. If you start to realize this is why the trend towards a digital currency has been on the upsurge, then you are not far from the truth. Still not convinced? Then research central bank digital currency, CBDC. Very much the idea is a one world currency. Do you see what this is leading to? Money is controlled by those in power and not the people. Pillar 3, scoring or the social credit system. Where do we find this in action? China. China has the most restrictive social credit system. This is fast becoming an accepted method of judging people for their habits, such as the amount of time watching television, video gaming online, social media comments, and shopping habits. A system that labels a person, in short, a good citizen or a bad one. This, along with the Pillar 1, is meant to create the foundation for total control of human activity and setting limitations on freedoms like free speech.
Imagine a scenario in which you do something that the government does not approve of. You read a book that it doesn't want you to read. You write an essay or an article that it doesn't like. You create a YouTube video commenting on something in a negative way. Now, those are all things that productive human beings do to critique and build and grow their society. But you can't do it there. And if you do something that the government disapproves of, using these social credit scores, they can ghost you. They can effectively lock you out of your world.
Finally, Pillar 4, ecological sustainability. To many climate change activists, this is what they've been hoping for, a global ecological consciousness of the environment. Environmental sustainability aims at improving well-being and long-term sustainability by preserving the environment and more rational use of natural resources. For example, the United States has a political ambition of banning gas-powered motor vehicles and gas stoves. And what about adopting the ideas that humans stop eating meat or driving cars? While the idea is intriguing, it all comes down to control, not about any environmental concerns, pure control. Why am I discussing globalization now? Well, this concept helps the agenda of organizations like the WHO, the WTO, WEF, and the United Nations, and the Bilderberg Group, to name a few, who are trying to accomplish part of the New World Order. You know, with global free trade, which roughly will translate to a one-world economy. Then there's the push for an all-inclusive belief system incorporating all popular religions together, for it will become a one-world religion. And of course, their use of the environmental, social, and governance, or ESG network, which will later prove to become the tool for the upheaval of the Constitution in the United States and the destruction of national sovereignty, which yet again translate to a one world government. These are 3 pillars of an elite group that will most likely deliver to the world stage the promise of peace and security for a better future, if we agree to come together as a global community. Let's review the contributors to the WEF. Admittedly, this is a short list, but it should settle your curiosity. It's a virtual who's who of the rich and powerful. Number 1, Big Pharma, medical. Number 2, resource. Number 3, big tech. Number 4, finance and insurance. Number 5, defense. Number 6, foundations. Number 7, food, agriculture. Number 8, other. It is an interesting exercise to see who is providing the financial backing for one of the world's most powerful non-governmental organizations. One has to wonder if the leaders of these companies aren't expecting to get special favors from the World Economic Forum as the Great Reset is implemented. Whether you're a Christian, atheist, or whatever, there is no denying the elite have been working obsessively with a meeting yearly proclaiming they are good stewards of humanity. Yet these good stewards are only ushering in what can only be called the dark days ahead. Wake up, America. Wake